What's happening? And thanks for tapping into the 24th floor. It is Monday, February the 10th, post-Super Bowl Monday, where the Eagles are the newest Super Bowl champs. Gabe Kuhn of ESPN 92.9 joins the show here in a minute. Help me break down a busy weekend in Memphis and in sports. The 24th floor starts right now. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you don't have the Monday Super Bowl hangover. You got your day started off to a good start. I got the best lineman on Memphis radio, the only lineman on Memphis radio joining the show today, Gabe Kuhn, host of the Gabe Kuhn Show on 92.9 ESPN here in Memphis. Gabe, what's happening with you, man?
No, nothing much, man. I am celebrating a National Hangover and Stomachache Day accordingly.
Yeah,
I hope everybody enjoyed their Super Bowl Sunday. But, I'm definitely having a slow Monday. I feel like everybody else is too.
Right. Did you get your fill of chicken wings and pizza? What's your go-to Super Bowl snack?
Man, I try to explain this to people like every other holiday. Like if we're talking Thanksgiving, at least there's some type of health food. Like you have turkey,
right?
Where turkey's like a nice lean bird meat. And like you get to 4th of July, like, okay, you have hot dogs, burgers,
right,
the whole thing. But at the same time, here's some potato salad, some pasta salad, maybe an actual salad. When you get to the Super Bowl, it's like everything's off the table. It's pizza, wings, buffalo chicken dip. I mean, that's always a staple at the white Super Bowl parties. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
The buffalo chicken dip, and then mac and cheese. Everything's just nothing's off the table, but nothing's healthy.
Right, not a thing is healthy. Mine was a little different. I was driving back from Georgia, so I got into town about an hour after about before the game started. And no Super Bowl snacks for me. I had some leftovers in the fridge that I ate and enjoyed it like I was watching Sunday Night Football on a regular season game. So it wasn't quite the same for me, but I'm sure I'll get my fill in the snacks here somewhere else because Lord knows we're not doing anything disciplined in this new year like we said we would. Anyway, let's jump into our big idea of the day because we're talking Super Bowl. Philly, stand up. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22 Sunday night. Stop that Chiefs three-peat. The dynasty is no more, at least not this year. The Eagles defense got after Patrick Mahomes, sacking him 6 times. They forced 3 turnovers. Jalen Hurts named Super Bowl MVP, throwing for 221 yards, rushing for another 72, and tacking on 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
God is good. He's greater than all the highs and the lows, and I think personally myself, I've just been able to use every experience and learn from it. The good, the bad, all of it, using it as fuel to pursue my own greatness. And I think I couldn't do any of these things without the guys around me. We had a special group this year. We were able to learn from the past and get some nice new pieces and get over that hump.
All right, Gabe. The Rebels took down the Empire. At least for this year. No Death Star on notice, at least for right now. What was your kind of your big takeaways from Super Bowl LIX, a.k.a. 59?
Well, I'll say right now, Jalen Hurts is stamped. I don't want to hear anything else. I know that we can talk about consistently what he is as a quarterback, how he throws the ball, or maybe the lack of throwing the football, especially during the regular season. There was a lot of back and forth about that this year, and A.J. Brown being unhappy, and Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts in the early season after the way last season ended, it being a problem, them not being on the same page. But one thing I will say is the guy just wins. He just wins. And now he's got a Super Bowl MVP to show for it. Now, granted, you don't get there without Saquon Barkley, that offensive line, and that roster, probably the best in football. But Jalen Hurts is stamped now, so I want to make that clear first and foremost. I think Nick Sirianni, you can group in with him. I mean, there's a lot of questions about him in the Eagles, him not being the grown up in the room, and Jalen Hurts having to be the grown up in the room for Nick Sirianni. But the guy's 54-23 now, in 4 years as a head coach with a Super Bowl. I think you go ahead and give him the stamp of approval. And then just looking at the game and really what killed the Chiefs completely is the Eagles were able to get pressure at every turn, and they did it with a 4-man rush. I didn't quite expect it. They have been, since Nick Sirianni has been in town, a team that does well at getting after the passer. Good sack rate, good sack percentage.
Sure.
But this year it wasn't quite like that. They didn't have the strongest edges in the world. The Bryce Huff, shout out to my former teammate at the University of Memphis, the Bryce Huff signing didn't quite work out. He was hurt, but he also didn't have a very good year. But you have Josh Sweat showing up last night. You have Milton Williams getting 2 sacks last night. They got pressure with a 4-man rush on Patrick Mahomes and got him on the ground before he could create out of the pocket. And when you do that, and you keep the Chiefs behind the chains, don't let them do too much of that scramble drill with Patrick Mahomes on 3rd down, you limit what they can do in general offensively.
Yeah.
And until the Chiefs opened it up and just started throwing it on every down by the end of the game, there was just nothing there for them.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. I think the biggest thing we thought coming into this game was, what would that Eagles pass rush look like? And what was crazy to me was you mentioned, they only rushed 4 men, but they also never blitzed. I think that it kind of gets lost in the shuffle there a little bit. Didn't blitz the whole game. The front four is massive. They pressured Patrick Mahomes on like 38% of his dropbacks. And you could tell really from that first couple of drives, that he had happy feet in a way that I don't think any of us really expected Patrick Mahomes to have happy feet. And so they did a great job with their pass rush, not only in getting pressure on Mahomes, but also containing him, because I think we've seen him a lot of times do pull the rabbit out of the hat, and you flush him out of the pocket, he's on the run, and he makes some kind of miraculous pass to Xavier Worthy or Travis Kelce or whoever. And so I think I know the MVP goes to Jalen Hurts in this game, and he played great, but I got to give it to that defense, because you force a pick six, you get a second turnover in that second quarter, and then you come and you force a 3rd turnover in the second half. I just think they got up on the Chiefs early, and they never let the Chiefs get back into the game. And as a Falcons fan, they got up 24-0, and I tweeted this. I was like, as a Falcons fan, no lead is safe, right?
Everyone had that same thought across their mind.
I'm watching the game.
That same conversation.
I'm watching the game straight face, because I'm like, I've seen this before. I'm not gonna get excited. No, there's too much time left. We were talking about Patrick Mahomes here, but I think the Eagles did not allow the Chiefs to be, or Patrick Mahomes to be, Patrick Mahomesian. And I think that was a huge takeaway for this one. Also, I thought we came into this one, at least I did, saying if the Eagles can run the football, they're going to have, the Chiefs are going to have the Eagles can run the football, the Chiefs are going to have a really hard time. And the Chiefs actually really shut down the Saquon Barkley rushing attack of this game. Only had 57 yards in the game. They fed it to him 25 times. They were going to force the issue with Saquon Barkley, and that never quite happened. But to your point, Jalen Hurts, they said, we're going to shut down Saquon Barkley and make Jalen Hurts beat us. And that's exactly kind of what Jalen Hurts did in this one. I saw this picture this morning. Y'all can go ahead and bring this up before I came into work. And when you talk about aura, this is what aura looks like. Gabe, it's the picture of Jalen Hurts post-game, getting ready for the post-game interview, and just mobbed by the media. He's got the spotlight on him, and he just looks as cool as he ever does. And I just thought it was an excellent kind of picture of what this game looked like for him. The Chiefs and Spagnuolo said, we're going to shut down Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts said, okay, bet.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. 11 carries for 72 yards and that touchdown. It was unbelievable to see him and, how poised he was the entire game. He did throw the pick, that pick relatively early in the game, but he responded very well. And he has been, he's a guy who definitely commands a locker room and commands an offense. And that's one thing I've always respected about him, going back to his days at Alabama. He was a guy that I think was doubted a lot heading into the league, heading into the National Football League. I certainly was one of those guys. Like, if I look back at my old podcast clips talking about Jalen Hurts, I had some doubts that he'd ever be in this position starting and having an opportunity to win ball games. for the Eagles. But I mean, he has proven everybody wrong along the way, and he's definitely got some aura. I don't know if you saw his NFC Championship outfit too.
Yeah.
That one was. I mean, it was the pleated khaki suit with he had the
little French
black
hat on,
turtleneck underneath, and he had I don't even know what those hats are called.
Beret? He had a beret on?
Yeah, the sort of a beret styled Michael Jordan mid 1990s hat going on. I mean, he's got some aura. I'll give Jalen Hurts that.
Yeah, for sure. Gotta agree with that one. Certainly puts a bit of an in at least for right now on the Patrick Mahomes is going to be the greatest quarterback we've ever seen debate. I actually kind of want to get your take on that. Do you think we can put that to bed for a while, or where do you land on it? Because when I look at this conversation, everybody's saying, "Oh, well, Tom Brady's the best ever forever. We can put this to bed." And I'm like, well, Patrick Mahomes is 3-2 in Super Bowls. Tom Brady was 3-2 and through his first 5. Now, what I will say is Tom Brady never got blown out in any Super Bowl that we saw him in. And with this particular performance, the last 2 times that Patrick Mahomes has lost Super Bowls, he's gotten the wedgie, right? Got his pants pulled up over his head, and he looks really bad. So what's your take on that GOAT conversation?
He's lost by a combined 40 points in his 2 Super Bowl losses, which is it's just kind of insane when you think about it. Up until this particular matchup, he had only lost to Brady. So, my overwhelming take was it just feels like this Chiefs team under Patrick Mahomes doesn't fail. And through Tom Brady's career, we obviously was so long and drawn out, quite frankly, that we got to see some failure along the way. Yeah. I mean, we see some failure now from Patrick Mahomes. In 2 Super Bowls, he's lost to Joe Burrow. He adds the loss to Jalen Hurts if we're doing the quarterback conversation, and that's one of the very few quarterbacks in the league that's been able to do that to him in the playoffs. He only has 4 playoff losses, after all, and 2 of those are to Tom Brady. So I think there's a couple of reasons I think we should just press a little bit of pause. I don't know how long Travis Kelce's going to be here, so this sort of fits in. But Tom Brady himself actually accounts for half of Patrick Mahomes' playoff losses. So I think that does mean a little bit of something. The head-to-head between those 2 guys, we can't ignore that.
Especially as Tom Brady's on the way out, right?
Yeah, we value head-to-head so much in all sports. So I think even when we're talking legacy, I think maybe head-to-head should matter to a certain extent here. Now, also, I think what was so unbelievable about Tom Brady is at age 40, you could argue he's the best quarterback in the league. The LeBron James effect, the longevity effect, being able to stay healthy into that age. I think that if Patrick Mahomes is able to recreate that, win a couple more Super Bowls and do that type of thing, sure, I think Patrick Mahomes is right there. But the longevity for Brady is something that I don't think now that he's been away from the game for a couple of years, I don't think we respect it enough, to already put Patrick Mahomes directly in the GOAT conversation. Let's let him play the rest of his career. See how he holds up. I mean, he's got however many years on that 10-year contract he signed not too long ago. Let's see how he holds up, through the long haul. And then we'll start, bridging that gap, comparing him back and forth with Tom Brady and how he was at that age.
Yeah, certainly. I think as a society, we maybe try to put the crown on Patrick a little too early. Granted, he has been fantastic and unbeatable for the most part. What I thought was kind of funny about this was you mentioned that Tom Brady has beaten Patrick Mahomes twice in the playoffs. He was there for the Super Bowl. He was there for the AFC Championship game, right? And then at the same time, he's calling the Super Bowl that Patrick Mahomes gets whooped in, right? So I saw a funny tweet. It was like, devil magic looks real until real devil magic shows up. It looks like Tom Brady might have the real devil magic on Patrick Mahomes, at least for right now. I mean, he's going to be calling games for a long time. So we'll see what happens with that. But let's shift gears a little real quick.
I hate to cut you off, Avery.
Go ahead.
What do you think about Tom Brady, the broadcaster? Seriously, I want honest opinions. We got through a whole season, and I think he got better each game.
Yeah,
but by the end of it, I don't know. We were in the Super Bowl, and he didn't know how to get to break, and I was a little taken aback by how it felt like he wasn't quite prepared for the Super Bowl. But hey, it is what it is.
I think that in the same vein of Patrick Mahomes, crowning him a little too early, I think Tom Brady's got some growing pains, right? And the thing about it is that Fox has hitched their wagon to the Tom Brady train, and they're gonna ride it until society decides that the train has fallen off the tracks. And I think he's coming along. Is he great right now? I wouldn't say he's great right now. I still think Greg Olsen is probably the best on that Fox crew by a pretty good margin. But hey, man, Tom Brady, he wasn't great out the gate when he was with the Patriots way back when. So we'll give him a little time, and I'm sure we'll see him in very much Super Bowl form here soon. A very cool local part of this Super Bowl win, though, is the Memphis Tigers that were in it. 3 former Tigers were part of the Philadelphia Eagles, running back Kenneth Gainwell, defensive end Bryce Huff, and kicker Jake Elliott. Elliott, in particular, with a phenomenal game, 4 for 4 in field goals, 4 for 4 in extra points. Now the all-time leader in field goals made without a miss in Super Bowl history, and tied for the most field goals made in the Super Bowl with Kansas City's Harrison Butker, a record 9 for 9. Congrats to all those Tigers. For those of you guys who don't know, Gabe Kuhn is a former Memphis Tiger himself, played on the offensive line. And from what I understand, Gabe, we talked about this before the show, you've got a little fun fact for us with Jake Elliott.
Yeah, it's my freshman year roommate. How about that? Jake Elliott, freshman year roommate.
Very cool.
I was in there with it was the long snapper, Jake, me, and then my buddy who was a tackle, all in the same exact class. Class of 2013, stand up at the University of Memphis. Most winning, if I'm not mistaken. I guess if you started in 2014 after your redshirted, this is definitely the truth. But most winning 4-year class in the history of University of Memphis football. But shout out Jake, freshman year roommate. I love him and his wife Annie and his son.
Just how cool is that to see guys that Jake, you have the real personal relationship with, but even being an alum of the University of Memphis and seeing guys on that stage winning the game's highest award, highest trophy.
I don't know, man. It's awesome. Jake is such an interesting case too, because I don't know. He's such a good guy, no question. But it's just like all these good things just come to him. He's a hard worker. He deserves all of it. Don't get it twisted. But it's wild. Like he gets drafted in the 5th round by the Bengals, and he got cut his rookie year. Eagles pick him up. He wins a Super Bowl his rookie year. And then as the everything keeps spinning, he has a couple of different coaches. He gets a big contract. Here comes Sirianni. They lose the Super Bowl. He wins another Super Bowl. He's 2 Super Bowls into this thing. Like I after his rookie year, I sort of got used to him just being in this spot and being beloved in Philadelphia. And nothing surprises me with him at this point. You have those buddies that are just destined for greatness. Mm-hmm. Those people that you just look at and you're like, that person is going to do well in life. That person always has good things come to them. That's Jake. I have resigned myself to the fact that Jake is always going to be doing things like this, and he was always going to do great things.
Very cool. Yeah, I think I saw a stat that makes that after last night, the Memphis Tigers are like 4th most in points scored in the Super Bowl between Jake Elliott and then Stephen Gostkowski, of course, who kicked a long time for the New England Patriots and all those Super Bowls. It's got to be a pretty cool feeling to see them. Memphis Tigers, stand up, man. I mean,
where do we find all these kickers, by the way? What happened? And then Riley Patterson was kicking around the league for a while. Like, where did all these people? Where do these guys come from?
We got to get on and talk to Ryan Silverfield. Ask him where he's finding all these diamonds in the rough, man. Or how the Tigers do it. But while we're sticking on the Tigers, let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit of basketball. Give me the animation. Memphis took on Temple for the 2nd time, looking for some get back after a loss on the road. How's that for get back? PJ Haggerty to Musa Cisse. Skies for the jam. Give it to me one more time. got a blast from the big man. That one, number 5 on SportsCenter Top 10 last night. Temple hung around in this one, especially in the first half. A strip for P.J. Haggerty. Gonna find Nick Jourdain on the break. We go into halftime tied at 35 apiece. No Tyrese Hunter in this game. So who steps into the starting role? Dante Harris. Watch him get to the rack. I like it. Picasso, 14 points in his first start. And how about the defense? The next possession tips the ball to Dane Danger. And Danger showing all the grace and agility of a ballerina, the dancing bear. He had 18 points. P.J. Haggerty keeps up his usual routine. 3 years later. Memphis gets up by as many as 15. They would win it 90-82 for their 7th in a row. Here's Penny Hardaway.
It didn't take a lot of conversation because they did a great job of out scrapping us and out hustling us at Temple, and we just couldn't allow it today. It's a new day and time. Back when we played, if the team beat us early, we came out with all kind of energy. We're just kind of this, we'll figure it out, get the tempo that we need, and then make plays, and that's how we win games, and I'm okay with that as well. But the guys were definitely aware of that this was a revenge game and that we needed to, bounce back.
Gabe, when we talked to the Memphis Tigers after their last win and they knew that Temple was coming up, they asked them, hey, is this a revenge game for you guys? And P.J. Haggerty and Dane Danger were the actually ones on the podium, and they didn't say too much. They said, we just got to get some get back, right? And that's exactly what this game kind of felt like for the Memphis Tigers. I love their defense in this one. They forced 16 turnovers, 10 steals, 5 blocks, and they have 18 points off of those turnovers. I feel like they really rationed it up there in the second half. I love what Dante Harris was able to do in this one. Tyrese Hunter, right. They said they didn't know that Tyrese wasn't going to play until about 20 minutes before the game. Dante Harris was a midseason addition to this team. He comes in, he puts up 14 points. I just got to say, I was really impressed by what the Tigers were able to do in this one. And for the first time in a while, they got up on a team, and it didn't feel like they let the team get back into the game. And I think that was really the biggest thing for me. Like, they got up by 15. The lead got down to about, I think it was maybe 6 or 8. But even then, it didn't feel like the Tigers had really let Temple back in it because they put it back up to 12 real quick. And it felt like the book was closed, and they never really let the Owls get some life in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a clean game for the most part. I think there's still things they need to clean up. I don't like 12 turnovers to only 16 assists. If you're gonna have 12 turnovers, let's really share the ball when we get the opportunity. So there's that. I do love the fact that what has happened since Penny Hardaway has inserted Dane Danger into the starting lineup, you have a 1 and a 2. You have your very understood 1-2 punch in P.J. Haggerty and Dane Danger, and obviously both of them the past 2 games have been phenomenal for you. They I believe against Tulsa they both were in the 20s. This one 20 and 18, 20 for P.J. Haggerty, 18 for Dane Danger. We've also seen games where one of them doesn't have it and the other one picks it up. So I really like what that adjustment that Penny Hardaway made, what that has come to, what it looks like at this particular moment. So that's been nice to see. And then I think the other part of it is just the ability they have, and this goes to the Dante Harris point. In the past, guys go down, you don't really have replacements. Yeah. You don't have anybody who can pick up the slack. We certainly saw that last year. Right, like that was Caleb Mills goes down. You don't have a defensive connector and a leader anymore. Hell, if David Jones was out, you don't have a scorer. Who else is going to pick up that slack? Like, to see what this team is able to do, to find other guys that can help facilitate winning basketball, it's very nice. Like, PJ Carter has really stepped into a role that he understands, knocking down threes. I think he's been knocking down threes for the last 5 games at about a 50% clip. Yeah. That's phenomenal. Dante Harris, he's a midseason acquisition. You have no idea what he's going to look like. You know he's got talent. That he's good enough, but is he going to learn the system and be able to mesh and meld quick enough? You don't know that answer. Like, there's just no way of knowing that answer. And Tyrese Hunter,
obviously understood it, and he became very trusted by Penny Hardaway. But Tyrese Hunter goes out. Here's Dante Harris. He's able to fill in, get 14 points, couple steals, do the same things, quite frankly, that Tyrese Hunter has been doing for this team. So I think the strings that Penny Hardaway pulled by putting Dane Danger in the starting lineup and the ability this team has to beat you in multiple different ways with multiple different people helping along the way. Those are the most impressive things. And that's why this is the first time since 2014, I believe, that they have won 20 in their first 25 games. So they're pacing the season better than they have ever in the Penny Hardaway era and better than they have in the span of a decade.
Yeah, and I think a big thing there is you see this Memphis Tigers team, and they had a hiccup, right, against Temple a couple of weeks ago. And I think when we saw them have hiccups last season, even the season before that, there was potential, and last season in particular it did happen, but there was potential for disaster and for the train to kind of get off the tracks, right? And what I've kind of noticed with this team is that there is no impending doom. It doesn't feel like there's any impending doom with this team. I know a lot of Tiger fans might be feeling like the shoe's going to drop here sooner or later, but I think what Penny Hardaway has with this group is just a very mature team. To your point about the Dane Danger, PJ Haggerty 1-2 punch, really probably Haggerty Danger is the 1-2 there. I think has really been a revelation because for the longest time they were trying to force I wouldn't say force. They were trying to go with the PJ Haggerty Tyrese Hunter 1-2, and it kind of had to be that way because they really didn't have any inside scoring. It just took Danger a while to come along, and I think that's what happens with some teams when all these guys are new. You know, talking about 9 transfers into the program, they're trying to figure each other out. And here in the second half of the season, here in the second half of, I guess, going into the second half of AAC play, it seems like they have really figured each other out in terms of, okay, you can get yours, bet. I'm going to get mine right here. You'll give it to me on the block. I don't like this. I'm going to dish it back out. There's Colby Rogers for 3. There's PJ Carter for 3. Right. I love how the role players have really accepted their roles. And I think for other teams, especially when you're having so many guys having to transfer in, you kind of have to appease or feel everybody out. Everybody's got to get theirs and this, that, and the third until eventually an alpha shows up and maybe everybody doesn't like who the alpha is. And that's not the case with this team really at all.
Yeah, what has become frustrating though, and obviously some people can be turned away by this at this point, just because it's a not so fun part of college basketball. But looking at metrics and stuff, I mean that's what I've gotten caught into with this Memphis Tigers team,
isn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, you look at their resume, and I don't think there's any way to paint it as anything other than a top 15 resume in college basketball. And I think the AP poll is going to show that, and I think all the polling will show that. But like when you just look at their predictive metrics, which those can get a little nerdy, and for some people they don't really check that stuff. But it's Bart Torvik and Ken Pom and BPI, all these different things.
It's part of the world.
They're sitting somewhere in the. They're sitting somewhere in the 40s. And then you look at the net ranking, which is done by the NCAA, and the committee takes that very serious. They're still sitting there in the 40s. They drop when they play games like this and win by 7 or 8 and don't cover a spread. It's just that what is frustrating is they have to operate with a different set of rules than anybody else that's sort of in a big conference in the top 25. They can't just worry about, am I winning? Like, honestly, I think things will take care of themselves if they just keep winning, whether it's by 1 or by 50, But it feels like, based on what I've seen with these metrics, that they have to worry about how they're winning, how much they're winning by, where they're winning, how many turnovers they're committing. Are they affecting their offensive or defensive efficiency numbers? Like, it's so much, and it feels like it could bog you down at times. Like the fact that they beat Tulsa by 12 and Temple by 8, yet they fall down in those metrics because they're not winning by 20. You can't win every game by 20. It just feels like they're in this very bizarre spot in the grand scheme of things. But they're doing well. They're doing very well.
Yeah, Penny Hardaway's definitely talked about that. I don't know if he talked about it in this last game, but definitely in the game before, he does mention, when we're up 12 points, 13 points on some of these teams, we got to learn how to stretch that to 20 because to your exact point, they are under such a microscope because they're in such a poor conference that when you are only winning a game against a Temple by 8 points, and don't get me wrong, Temple's a decent team. They're not, I don't think they're going to be NCAA tournament bound, but they're not a bad team. But it just feels like Memphis needs every added advantage that they can have when it comes to these computer metrics. And when they don't have that, you're worried about them. Every time they win, it just seems like they slip a little bit more. And, you know, they're sitting in the mid-40s right now. But before we get to the end of conference play, I mean, are we touching 48, 49, 50? And you hope that's not the case because, especially if they continue to win, it'll just kind of have to be a wait and see. And all Penny Hardaway can do, and then he's talked about this too, is he's like, all we can do is just win. And we try to win by as much as we can. By the end of the day, as long as we're winning, you know, they should, and the non-conference schedule that they gave themselves and the way that they took care of business then, they should be hovering around a 4 or 5 seed here going into the NCAA tournament.
And just one more quick thing. It's just like looking at the net, it just doesn't make sense. You know, like some of these things it just boggles the mind. Like SMU, as of last week, was ahead of the Tigers. SMU is picked to be out of the tournament, according to Joe Lenardi at ESPN. And Memphis is picked as a 5 seed. And then you have, you know, these other teams that are picked to be 8 or 9 seeds that are well within the top 30 range in the net. But they're 8 or 9 seeds. Memphis is picked to be a 5. So it's just like there's inconsistencies all over the place that I will never understand. And honestly, I don't want to understand.
Yeah, I don't need to know.
I know wins. I know losses.
Right.
And I know who you know, which wins and losses matter. That to me, that's all that should matter in the grand scheme of things.
We are simple men. All right, well, let's take a quick break. Coming up, the Grizzlies had won 10 of 11 games before running into the Mack truck that was Oklahoma City. Gabe and I will talk about where they go next. That's coming up after the break.
The weather affects us every day, but some days are more impactful than others. In Memphis, we get it all. From heat waves, severe storms, snow, and ice. As a meteorologist, it's my job to keep you safe on those impactful days. Don't get caught off guard and know what to expect with ABC 24 Weather Impact Days.
The 24 Plus app. Watch us live and continue with us on 24 Plus. And get extended coverage of weather and breaking news. The 24 Plus app. ABC 24 is making your voice heard.
This city is filthy, it's crime infested, and somebody needs to do something about it.
Listening to your concerns.
We could have such a great city if we really just put the time and energy into it and come up with solutions.
And getting results for you.
We appreciate 24 for coming out.
Getting the issues taken care of.
When you put it on ABC 24, somebody gonna listen.
ABC 24, seeking solutions for you.
I just love working on this morning show.
We really are like one big family. Myself, Yvonne, Ruben.
You're probably gonna like what you see and what you hear. And you're gonna leave being informed and having a little bit of fun at the same time.
ABC 24 News this morning.
The news never stops, so we're taking you beyond the broadcast with ABC 24 Plus.
Continuing coverage of the issues that matter to you.
We need to get something done.
More interviews and stories that dig deeper.
The Lord has a plan, is all I know.
We'll take you beyond the scores and highlights for local sports coverage you can't find anywhere else.
Plus, on-demand forecasts to keep you weather aware.
ABC 24 News right now on ABC 24 Plus.
All right, welcome back to the 24th floor. Avery Braxton here with 92.9 ESPN host Gabe Kuhn, host of the Gabe Kuhn Show. We're going to jump right into some Grizzlies talk. Second meeting of the year between OKC and the Grizz. Des Bane, first quarter, the fly-by king. Going to knock the game up at 7 in the first quarter with that 3. OKC would explode kind of in the second quarter, up by 15 here, but Ja Morant on the rebound, a little behind the back. Whoop! Can't finish at the rim, but the tip-in is good. Grizz down 17 at the half. A lot of that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. How about Shai Gorgeous on that move? The reverse layup in the third. Gilgeous-Alexander gives the Thunder 32 points. The OKC beats Memphis 125-112, and the Grizzlies their second loss in this series. What say you, my guy, about what the Grizzlies were able to do in this one, or rather what they weren't able to do here, Gabe?
I guess Aaron Wiggins does not miss 3-pointers anymore. I guess that's something that just does not happen. Now, granted, I think there's a lot of transition threes where the Grizzlies weren't able to close out, and he had some open looks. But 8 for 13 from 3 for Aaron Wiggins. If you let that happen with a role player like that, not Jalen Williams, not SGA, not Chet, not guys like that. If you let Aaron Wiggins do that, you're probably going to lose the game. But I think, when you just sort of break down the box score and look into why the Grizzlies lost the game, if you're shooting the same percentage as a team who from 3 who shot 14 more threes than you, it's probably not going to go your direction. But I hate to say it this way because I think, there's been some good wins along the way. The Rockets not too long ago at home was a good one. I remember the Celtics early in the season on the road in Boston. That was a heck of a win. But more often than not, it does feel like the Grizzlies have fallen short in some of these sort of big, we have everybody off the injury list, we're playing to prove something. Feels like they have struggled in these games more often than not this year. And obviously that's not something that you would think bodes well for a playoff scenario and what they'd look like in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, they have time to sort of figure it out, get it right by the time they get to the playoffs. And, I think more so than anything, Avery, I'm just happy to see that injury report the way it looked. I mean, there's one guy. There's one guy. I think it's Cam Spencer now is the only guy on the Grizzlies injury report for the time being. And that's beautiful to see. And I think they're going to have some time to mesh and fare better in games like this down the stretch of the season.
Yeah, we're going to knock on wood on that one because I can't remember the last time. I can't remember the last time.
I got some right in front of me.
Somebody tweeted it out, right? And they said the last time the Grizzlies only had 2 guys on the injury report was from 2023. And that was the Desmond Bain was questionable kind of coming into this one. And, I think overall because of that factor, the health factor, when the Grizzlies last played the Oklahoma City Thunder, it was reversed. I mean, the Grizzlies had so many guys still out. You were kind of wondering, all right, what kind of performance will we get? You're hoping, on the road they show up. They didn't. And in that particular game, it was more about the turnovers than in this one. You're talking about the 3-point shooting of the Oklahoma City Thunder. You're also talking about the offensive rebounds of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yep.
They out-rebounded. The total out-rebounding was 55-40, but OKC had 21 offensive rebounds. That turns into 32 second chance points. You make a great point about Aaron Wiggins. I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't know who Aaron Wiggins was because I watched the last game. I've seen a couple of the Thunder games. Like, he's a good shooter, but it seems like every time there is a big game of this magnitude for the Grizzlies, something weird like that happens where you have a role player that just kind of has a lights out kind of game. And you need that because I think when people play the Grizzlies, they're like, who the heck is Santi Aldama, right? I think we get a lot of that when people play the Grizzlies. But it seems like when they're in these bigger games, they have a role player from the other team that kind of does something crazy like that. I thought what was interesting about this one as well was the buildup for this was the Grizzlies had 2 days of rest. They were fully healthy. You had the Thunder on the second night of a back-to-back missing 3 of their starters, and they blow you out essentially at home. I mean, it is a 12-point, 13-point game, I think, at the end of it. But for the majority of the game, it didn't feel like the Grizzlies were in it. And I think that's really disappointing. And that second half, you go away from the rookies as well, which I thought was kind of interesting because I feel like that just put fuel to the fire for everybody saying, well, we didn't make a real move at the trade deadline, and we're going to have to depend on 2 rookies here in the playoffs. And lo and behold, the first real game we get post-trade deadline, Jalen Wells plays 12 minutes with 3 fouls, and Zach Edey has 13 minutes.
Yes, that's going to be the big talking point. Are these guys going to be able to be trusted by Taylor Jenkins in the playoffs? Because that was a playoff intense type setting. Yeah. Like that was a playoff intensity that they were supposed to go out with the other night against that Oklahoma City Thunder team, and it just wasn't quite there for them. I'll say this though, those 2 guys, and Zach Edey's had his struggles, but he righted the ship the past couple of weeks. But Jalen Wells for sure. Like they've played so well this year that I don't see any reason to second guess what happened at the deadline. Like, the only thing at the deadline with Marcus Smart, I could argue that you could have done that, executed that trade in the offseason, because you obviously didn't make your team better. Like, the only argument you could make is that the team got worse, their roster top to bottom, by not having Marcus Smart. Do I think that limits their ceiling, not having Marcus Smart? Probably not. He played 28% of the games while he was in a Grizzlies uniform. But the only thing I could say about sort of second guessing what happened at the trade deadline, there wasn't a big fish out there for you. There wasn't real massive moves to make. That was the only real thing that was on the table for them. I don't necessarily think they should have done it right now, getting rid of Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia, but that's the decision they made ultimately. But yeah, I mean, we're going to have questions about these rookies the rest of the way, and especially heading into playoff basketball.
Yeah, I certainly think on the Jalen Wells note, he's probably earned a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, right? He is a rookie, so he is kind of learning on the job. But for the most part, for all things considered, he has performed above expected value, right?
Yes.
Way above expected value. And I think that's so you give him a little bit of grace here with a game like this one, especially taking on an SGA, because he's not going to shut down everybody. But definitely really struggled. Zach Edey, you brought him into this organization expecting him to bang with guys like an Isaiah Hartenstein, right? And for him to, he seems like he's kind of having these up and down roller coaster kind of scenarios where, he'll match up with a guy like an Isaiah Hartenstein and have a really good game, and then other games, it's just not looking the same. And to Taylor Jenkins' point in the post game, he said, "Hey man, we tried to go big, we tried to go little, we tried to speed the game up, we tried to slow down. Just nothing worked, right?" And the OKC Thunder are just that damn good. And I tell you, and it looks like from here until the end of the season, they're going to continue to be that damn good. And you can only hope that when they see the Grizzlies again, they're going to have two more matchups that they will certainly be able to kind of maybe even this series up. And maybe it feels like it's going to be similar to the Rocket regular season series, where okay, man, we can't let them get the one up on us.
Yes,
we got to have some kind of confidence against this team going into potential playoff scenarios.
Yeah, I think that the rebounding battle that you brought up, 55-40, 21 offensive rebounds.
Put a body on
you just
somebody.
sort of I honestly think, just looking back at just about every game where Zach Edey has his struggles and only gets to play 15 minutes at the most, and he just doesn't look right. I think those coincide pretty well with the bad rebounding games, because if you're not having Zach Edey in there, you just lack the size and the rebounding ability, because your other bigs, let's just get into that. Santi Aldama, he can be a good rebounder. He can be, but that's not an every night thing for him. He's not necessarily some he's 7 foot, but he's not a 7 foot, bang in the post type big at all.
Stretch four.
He's been a stretch four. And then Brandon Clark, great. Really like him. I think he's the best pick and roll threat. I think he does some really good dirty work things, but he is 6'8". It's just hard to rebound at the highest of levels if that's the guy that's getting most of your minutes at the 5. And then Jaren, we just know there's not many shortcomings to his game. There's not. He's really good on the offensive end, really good at the defensive end. He can score seemingly from all three levels. Maybe needs to get a little better in the mid-range, but that left-handed hook is just unstoppable so far this year. But the one shortcoming to his game is rebounding. So if Zach Edey only gets 12 minutes and gets played off the floor, you do run the risk of having a rebounding night like you had the other night.
Yeah, to your point, Santi Aldama, I think, gives you 6 rebounds last night. Brandon Clark gives you 7. Your highest rebounder was your guard, was Desmond Bane. He had 20 points, 9 boards, and quite honestly, we kind of get a lot of games like that from Dez, where he has 20 points and he'll double up with either rebounds or assists, kind of just picks which thing you need in any particular matchup. But I don't think they're going to win a lot of games if Desmond Bane is their leading rebounder on any particular night. So Grizzlies will take on Phoenix tomorrow night in the desert, see if they can right the ship. Gabe, I appreciate you joining the show, brother. This has been fantastic. I know you're a proud new dad, so I'm going to let you continue dadding back at the crib. I appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll get back to it, man. I appreciate it. I'll come on whenever, man. This was fun.
For sure. All right, man. I'll let you have it. Let's wrap it up with the best thing I saw this week. Best thing I saw. Kendrick Lamar put the final stamp on the beef with Drake in his Super Bowl halftime performance. He kind of teased and pump faked his diss track, Not Like Us, the mischievous grin after calling Drake's name on live TV in the Super Bowl. Had Serena Williams crip walking based on her history with Drake. I just thought it was an all-time troll performance by K-Dot. Although I kind of would have liked to hear more of his hits. You know, you didn't get All Right in this one, although he did that in the 2022 Super Bowl. Didn't get some of those ones that you really know Kendrick for, but hey man, he had a message, he had his symbolism, he's an artiste. And so he was going to get his message out. A great victory lap for Kendrick, though. I know Drake was probably somewhere crying, throwing up outside of in his mansion, looking at the TV in the Super Bowl. But just a really, really cool performance there from Kendrick Lamar in his Super Bowl halftime. Don't know where I would put it in my top 5, but pretty good. That's all I'm going to have for you here on the 24th floor today. Thanks to my guy Gabe Kuhn tapping into the show. No show on Thursday. We're taking a little break for the All-Star break. But keep an eye out for some content. I might have some cool stuff for y'all. Y'all don't know. Follow me on social media at Brax_Avery. We will be back on Monday. Until then, I'm Avery Braxton, and I'm out.